Today's the day, Brandon. Today's the day.
Today, we'll be reviewing Blumhouse's new horror movie, The Woman in the Yard. Before we get into it, definitely smash the like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Ramona becomes crippled by grief after her husband dies in a car accident, leaving her to care for her 2 children alone in her rural farmhouse. Her sadness soon turns to fear when a spectral woman in black appears on her front lawn, warning her, "Today's the day." As the mysterious figure creeps closer and closer to the house, Ramona realizes she must protect her children from the evil woman who simply won't leave them alone. So to get into this, I'm going to start off spoiler free and then we're going to end with spoilers. So with this movie, I'm not going to lie, it definitely is very suspenseful. It is very suspenseful. It has a lot of tense moments, and I love the whole concept of it. It almost feels like, I told myself in the theater, she feels like a female version of Candyman. That's the best way to put her in words. She's literally like the female version of Candyman. Sometimes I even got vibes from Valak from the Conjuring franchise. But pushing forward, like what I just said earlier, is basically about a woman that comes back to hunt Ramona, which is the main character, with grief and everything, and kind of just remind her about her messed up situation that she just went through. So a tragedy happens in her family with her husband and everything, and then it just dominoes to her seeing this woman in the yard in all black. And yes, she kind of seems like she's dressed up in funeral attire. And one thing I will say about this character, the woman in the yard, it is very simple, but it goes a long way. The villain doesn't have to do too much. It's just more of the energy that comes with her, the vibes. She doesn't even say too much. It's just her being there, the stares, and just her. Sometimes when we do hear her voice, the way her voice is being projected to the audience, I do think that they excel with the woman in the yard character. But I will say, I feel like this character can have more potential. I feel like from the trailer, it seemed like this character was going to be a little bit more eerier, like just eerie and like almost like that Conjuring villain type of vibe, like the Nun. I feel like the villain falls short sometimes. I think it's because I think we just didn't see enough from her. I feel like when we did get her, it was like, oh, like a tease, you feel me? But I feel like when we didn't, you know, see a lot of her, it kind of pulls away from the character. But when we did see her on screen, it got active for sure. Like, so yeah, I think the woman in the yard was definitely creepy. A lot of things we see the woman in the yard do when things kick up, it was very strategic, and it was definitely getting under my skin. It was eerie, and I think it just gave the scenes a lot of more suspense when a woman in the yard was involved with the cast and everything that was going on with the story. Like I said, it's not doing too much, and this movie is PG-13, so you're not going to get all that gore and blood. You do get some scenes that can be like that, but nothing that's too crazy. And I think the storytelling in this is good, but one thing I will say, this is one of those horror films that has a slow burn. It definitely has a slow burn, but once it kicks up, you definitely get the picture that they're trying to tell. The final act, it picks up a lot of things from the first act that explains a lot, and it's just like a tale for real. Like I said, it kind of is in that same family as a Candyman, and I really did like the scenes when it got scary. It did get scary, eerie, and creepy. Once again, very suspenseful and tense. I also love the kids, Taylor and Annie, and I love the son. I loved how he stepped up in moments to kind of take that spot for his dad and kind of defend his mom and his sister, as we see in the trailer. Now, pushing forward, we know that Ramona is the main character, but at times we do get a lot of energy from the bigger brother. And it's not a big cast with this movie, to be honest. It's just very small and compact, but they do a great job. I want to say to the one who played the woman in the yard, she is so creepy. She's so eerie. She definitely has like this final boss body. She's huge, and I just like a lot of the scenes that they put her in once she arrives in the house. I will say this, I can definitely say they did a great job with this character. What I'm getting from this character with the woman in the yard, it's like she's like the Grim Reaper kind of. You guys know the concept of the Grim Reaper. They come when it's time for someone to leave, and you know, when they're crossing over to the other side. That's the vibes that I'm getting, but I could be wrong. Once again, the score was creepy. I like the sound effects that they used when the scenes got tense. And one thing I will say, this right here, I won't even call the woman, she's like a ghost, but also like an evil entity. She's not even something that I will say you can even put in the same family as like a Reagan or something like that. She has her own style to her, but also feels much like Candyman. It's nothing gory, it's nothing brutal. It's just more story driven with tense scenes. And I think from beginning to end, it's a great story told. Is this the best movie that you will see this year? I mean, I wouldn't say that, but I will say it definitely is one of the ones that Blumhouse has done that is very creative and unique for sure. So once again, this movie comes in at 1 hour and 25 minutes. It does has a slow burn. I feel like they stretched the story out a little too long. That's a negative about it. It stretches out too long, but in the end, it makes up for it. I feel like I wish I would have seen what I saw in the end a little bit more through the movie. I feel like the final act was good, but to some people, I can say this, that final act can be confusing. It could be confusing because it's a lot of bits and pieces through the story that's going to lead up to that final moment in the final act, I would say. But for people that are watching it and not understanding what's going on, it can get confusing. There's layers to this film. It's a lot of things that the director is trying to tell in the story that is not right in your face, that is kind of under the rug. You're gonna have to figure it out. But I do get the concept. I think the concept is very cool. Like I said, if I can compare it, it can be something like a Candyman. And I definitely think that it will go over a lot of people's heads when they first watch it. I think this will be a movie you will have to watch again to understand it. I really did like the final act. That was my favorite part, like the middle towards the final act. And I liked a lot of the jump scares that they planted. Some of them I could see coming, but most of them, it was little subtle jump scares that it's like, okay, they caught me off guard a little bit. It kind of gets you on your heels. But the most thing I think that it excels in is just being very suspenseful and kind of creepy. It's nothing too crazy about it, but I will say I think you guys should definitely check this out and see what The Woman in the Yard has to bring to us horror fans. Now, for the ones that have not seen The Woman in the Yard, definitely you should head out, because I'm going to bring in my spoiler thoughts with everything and what I thought about the film in little bits and pieces. So come back once you see The Woman in the Yard, and yeah, let me know what you think once you see the film. So to get in my spoiler thoughts, I see the story that they were telling with Ramona and how her grief was haunting her. We found out that actually Ramona lied to her kids about the accident with her husband in a car accident the whole time. She was the driver. She lied to her kids, saying that she actually in the passenger seat and it was wet and rainy. We see a flashback where the woman in the yard has been there the whole time. It almost seems like she's like in a different dimension. I did like how they projected her on the walls as this shadowy figure where she's like touching things and it's actually working in that dimension. So the whole thing with this is that I feel that it was cool to see that she was in a different dimension. Like she was actually still active and hunting Ramona from her past with everything that was going on with the woman in the yard. And just, I liked how they actually put her and the POV of the woman in the yard. That was kind of confusing, but I think it was just kind of showing you actually are your own enemy, for real, you're your own enemy. And I think that the woman in the yard was actually supposed to be the Grim Reaper, because we see at the end, she says, you know, today's the day, and it's like a message behind today's the day, being that it's something where Ramona can't live on with her life and she wanted to check out, but her kids was keeping her strong and giving her strength, but she's always wanted to, you know, check out, which I think was a crazy message they was putting in this story. So what I'm getting from this is that the woman in the yard is just simply the Grim Reaper. She's simply just the Grim Reaper, and I think that it played out well in the end. I just think that some people can get confused with this ending, and I liked how they were putting those little bits and pieces with Annie, how she had her R's backwards, kind of having that mirror effect, showing like the two-dimension type of thing and how things is backwards. And she was showing, the reason I think that it was cool, because we found out later in the film that the mom told the children her story backwards, and I think that's why she didn't like R's, like the R's being backwards and shit like that, because she was like, it was haunting her, and that's why the woman in the yard came to remind her, like, hey, like, yeah, today is the day. And that's why A Woman in Your actually tells Taylor, your mom told you the story backwards about your dad. And that's why the R's, I want to say, plays a significant role, where the mom starts tripping out about the daughter having the R's backwards and saying everything backwards, because it can be a little bit more, I want to say, because we see a shot of her, you know, with her husband, like in his dreamy state. But I think the main thing with this that kind of made it a little confusing was like the dimensions and everything with the woman in the yard. But overall, I do love the concept. I think it's eerie. Her in like the funeral clothes, all black, her voice. And sometimes she just stares at you, and she doesn't even talk that much. She just stares, and her vibe and her energy. I love the attic scene with the kids, with Ramona, and that scene where you actually see her face up close and personal was very terrifying. So yeah, man, I did, you know, enjoy it for the most part. I definitely think you all should check it out. But if I had to rate A Woman in the Yard, I will give it a solid 7 out of 10. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. And I'll definitely like to check this out again in the future to see how I'm feeling in the future. But a 7 out of 10 right now. Definitely comment down below what you all think about everything with The Woman in the Yard and how you feel about it. Let me know down in the comments. But unfortunately, this is the end of this video. I want y'all to hit me up on all my social medias at ILIKESCARY. And I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.